Sex education is the most harmful aspect of the sexuality system because it is the root of how people gain proper knowledge about sex, but the curriculum is weak, full of misconceptions, and inconsistent based on where you live. Students should be able to learn about sex and sexuality from an unbiased and reliable source. Sex education in schools should be the place where common misconceptions are debunked, but instead, not everyone agrees on what is right or wrong in regard to sexuality, or if there even is a right or wrong. Schools don't have a common mandate for sex education curriculum and how it should be taught. Nonetheless, who should be able to teach it, which is the main problem with sex education in our country. Most students aren't learning the important aspects of sex, such as their sexuality and how to navigate it, and most parents don't approve of their students learning about pleasurable sex, especially pleasurable homosexual sex. Not only do some parents disapprove of their child opening the door to the world of sex, but it's also difficult to teach in an unbiased yet factual way. For example, it's hard to correctly teach about homosexuality because there are facts that come along with being a homosexual that only a homosexual can accurately teach. These facts are known as wounded truths, the realistic struggles one faces when opening up about their queer identity. For example, a wounded truth could be wanting to come out as gay so you can be your true self, but knowing once you come out, you will face backlash and discrimination. Most schools don't worry about having someone with proper experience, knowledge, and perspective to teach students about sex ed. A solution to this problem would be for a national mandate for schools to hire teachers specifically for sex education that are properly trained and have real-life experiences to properly educate the youth about it. Sex education should be put on the same level of importance as any other subject in schools, and with that comes not letting parents decide what can and can't be taught. Author Valerie Harwood suggests that sex ed, specifically conversations about sexuality, should be taught by positive gay role models within the school. You might be asking yourself, why are parents helping control sex ed curriculum? And why is their view on sex education wrong? Sex ed curriculum is based off of incorrect beliefs and misconceptions charged by religion, ethics, and politics that have existed since or before the 19th century, when it was believed homosexuality was a plague that one could catch, rather than it being a permanent attribute to a person. This is just one example of the many incorrect beliefs that parents of our students and nearly everyone in society believes. Because of this, there are terms and labels that are passed on that degrade those in the LGBTQ+ community and create a hierarchy within society according to how you identify. Because sex ed is not properly teaching the youth in our country, they aren't learning how certain labels and treatment can be offensive and degrading. Because of these misconceptions and degrading labels/terms related to sex, our children believe that sex is inherently sinful and wrong to talk about. This is the opposite of what should be taught in sex education. Students are being led by a society who hold old misconceptions about sex and sexuality, and even author Reuben Gale states that sex laws are unreflective of how most people, especially the newer generations, feel about sex. Even indirect sex education is harmful because of sexual socialization that takes place when we are young. As early as preschool, misconceptions and stereotypes are rooted in our minds, which influence our life and choices we make within it, whether we know it or not. Little boys and girls learn where their place should be in romantic relationships and society through play, such as house, and preschool teachers promote heteronormative ways of thinking. Since sex ed is poor and it is difficult to get every school to teach the same information the same way with proper instructors, let's look at how else our children learn about sex, even stuff they wouldn't learn in school. Media, like movies, books, and TV shows, teach our children that hetero relationships are magical and powerful, and this is portrayed through an overwhelming imagery of love. This same magic and power are not included with the portrayal of same-sex couples in media, or any abnormal relationships in general. As uncommon as it is, when relationships that aren't hetero are portrayed in the media, they don't receive the same level of magic and excitement that normal couples get in movies. This makes children who are in the LGBTQ+ community, or children who don't look like the main characters, as unimportant and not normal. So, let's strive to create and immerse our children in media that shows diverse relationships in a realistic way, or better yet, media that doesn't have a main storyline or conflict revolving around romantic relationships. Another problem regarding sex and sexuality and how it is taught in schools is the incorrect language and labels we use to describe things. We should try to teach correct language in sex ed. For example, teaching about rape and the language that goes with it. Teaching young people that rape itself is a language and process which needs to be analyzed, rather than a fixed language or sequence of events for rape, could help boys and men understand the severity of rape and teach them how not to rape. The idea that there shouldn't be fixed language around sex and sexuality needs to be pushed in sex education. But while it's important to teach correct language, the social structure that shapes sexual desires, beliefs, and identities, it's also important to remember the negative aspects of language, such as degrading labels that are created. We need to teach our children that not everything in society, especially related to sexuality, is fixed. It is all made up and can be changed, and there aren't any actual rules to follow. You just need to do what makes you happy, and if there isn't a word to describe what makes you happy, make one up. We need to teach our children the fluidity sexuality has and how there are no fixed set of rules to go about it. This will make our society more accepting and embracing of every aspect of sexuality.